Terengganu is one of the states in Malaysia, which is characterized by its strong Malay culture, and tranquil coastal town. It is located in northeastern of Peninsular Malaysia, and sited at a cruise area, known as Silk Route, in between China and Middle East. The history of Terengganu started back in 19th century, where British came to invade Kuala Terengganu for its famous trading port. Among many other, Bukit Putri was one of the significant landmark in Terengganu that became an indicator for the traders from China, Middle East, and Gujarat. Hence, it emerged as the center of city development. Due to its history, background and geographical location, Terengganu received cultural influences from the neighbor in the north customs. Though it is a conservative Muslim state, the ground public is still enjoying the freedom of worship. Terengganu is also rich with its tradition, upheld through generation and visible in its way of life, as well as its arts and handicrafts such as songket, sutra, batik, and tembaga. It is a home to a diverse and close-knit society, where 90% of them is Malay, and others consist of Indian, Chinese, and a very small percentage of Aborigines. People of different races share the bonds of neighborhood culture, speak the same local dialect, and strong liking for local food, such as nasi dagang, sitar, and keropok leka. Cina Peranakan is one of the diverse ethnicity of Terengganu that enlightens this state's heritage. Their origins can be traced back in the 800 AD, when there were continuous migration of the Chinese into the state, due to its famous stop point for the travelers. The Chinese people stayed on the land for a long period of time, and some of them decided to stay in Terengganu, after they realized this place had the potential to become a successful trader's land. As the time passed by, this sub-ethnic group acculturated with local people. Cina Peranakan in Terengganu practice a few aspects of Malay culture, while they preserve a part of the Chinese culture and religion, which are Buddhists and Christian. Among the Malay traditions they practice are eating by using hand, closing the shops during the Friday prayer, and speak the Terengganu dialect fluently. In the architectural aspects, Cina Peranakan shops houses implement the Straits eclectic style. Nevertheless, the detailing such as ornamentation, adorn the floral motifs, especially lotus on the majority of the building. Hiliran is a village that became an intersection port for tradings and business. Located near to Sri Nilam River, which was used as the main route for the villagers and traders in the past. It is a peaceful village, with heritage building and traditions, which enlightens the village's environment. Masjid Hiliran is among the oldest masjid in Terengganu, as well as the first masjid to be built in 2 stories, which located in Kampung Hiliran. It is an indispensable existence of this heritage village. It was built by the villagers with timbers, then was rebuilt in concrete in 1925, by a man of great influence, Haji Mudkaya, the man behind the advancement of Masjid Hiliran. He was born at Palarusa in 1835. He was a rich trader that bestowed his fortunes to rebuild the masjid, where he brought a man from Cina Peranakan society to adorn the masjid with floral motifs during its reconstruction. In the past, masjid was the grandeur and the center of life in the society. Therefore, it was the best way to put him and his bloodlines in the fame of life.
Pada permulaan masjid, sebelum masjid ini ada masjid bangunan kayu. Kemudian masa itu pemerintahan almarhum Sultan Sulaiman ibni almarhum Sultan Zabidin. Jadi cari orang yang siapa yang boleh buat bangunan baru. Kemudian tiba-tiba datang seorang cik Ngoh yang apa dah dia orang tu dari Riau. Datang bawa Haji Mamat tu menghadap Sultan Sulaiman ni. Ketika Sultan Sulaiman tanya, awak boleh buat ada masjid ni? Boleh, dia kata. Awak ada duit ni bu. Zaman dulu tak ada duit ni bu. Dia buka duit 50,000. 50,000.
Masjid Hiliran is a vernacular masjid with a graveyard in its compound, which scattered in the Qibla direction, and surrounding the masjid. In the past, all religious activities, especially bathing of janazah, was held in the masjid, and it was easy to bury the bodies near to the masjid. It was for this reason that most of the old masjids have graveyard in their compound. The graves can be categorized under 2 types. One is in the open area, and another is in a covered and gated area, indicating the graves belong to Haji Mudkaya's family. Masjid Hiliran has perimeter concrete fences with 3 entrance gateways. Each gateway has a unique ornamentation which reflects the Cina Peranakan style. It has 3 flower buds on top which points towards the sky, and 2 columns on its side, that become part of the gateways. Each side of the columns are carved with the lotus flower motifs. The upper part is using Paula Bujang arrangement, showing the single element of the lotus flower bud. On the other hand, Paula Lengkap is used in the middle part, showing the combination of Paula Bujang and Paula Permedang, which highlights the floral elements in such elegant arrangement, while the lower part of the column portrays moderate repetition of motifs, also known as Paula Permedang. Surrounded by kampong houses, the village's pattern enhances the wind movements in the area. Thus, the masjid receives wind from all directions. Although it is hot outside, the interior of the building is cozy, because of the continuous cross-ventilation inside. The main ablution pool is situated right at the main entrance door of Masjid Hiliran. It is an open area, without walls to allow easy access for the public. Ablution pool of this masjid, with the depth of 2.5 meters, believed to be the widest and deepest ablution pool in Terengganu during that time. However, this space was converted into additional prayer hole in the current era. On the west side of the masjid, there was a well that acted as the only water source for the masjid, especially to supply water for ablution pool. The well then had been demolished and covered for extension purposes. The trace of the covered well can still be seen on the new extension area. Fortunately, there is a masjid that used the same water system as Masjid Hiliran. Masjid Tokupala is the only masjid which used the same system and preserved its well until today. The system works using the lever end, attached with a copper bucket. The water will then slowly fill the bucket. Then the filled bucket will then be pulled up until it reaches the tops of the well's well. The bucket will then be flipped, and this will cause the water to spill into the holding bin, which will then flow along the brick canal, into the ablution pool. The main part of the building is the main prayer hall, both on the ground and first floor. That is connected by 2 stairs on east and west of the building. The ground floor prayer hall is for daily prayers, while the prayer hall on the first floor will be opened during special occasions, such as Friday prayer and Eid prayer occasions. The front part of the first floor of the masjid was known as Balilintang. It is a special space dedicated to religious and Arabic classes, which was opened to the public. It is also can be accessed from the stair, located on the east side of the space, which is a direct access to the Balilintang, without the need to enter the main prayer hall. On 1942, these classes have changed to Kyria Secondary Religious School, and were relocated to a new place. Since then, it was no longer used as a learning place, instead it became an additional prayer hall until today. In the Qibla direction, there are the Qibla wall and Mihrab. The Qiblat wall was designed with Karth carving, and has two open windows facing the graveyard. By arranging both windows to face the graveyard, it intensifies the spiritual qualities of this space. Meanwhile, the Mihrab is also placed at the front side of the Qibla for Imam and Muazzin. It is almost like the Mihrab is an element of the Masjid, but with different identity, with its 5 side walls, 2 tiny openings, and a different form of roof. Each side of the building was designed with 2 doors type of windows, that are carried with special ornamentation of Peranakan style. These rows of windows at each side of the building, allow maximum cross-ventilation, and reduce the interior temperature for thermal comfort. There are 6 different types of lotus flower motifs in the windows, that carry the same concept, the symmetrical element. The ornamentation's design starts from the central part of the carving with a lotus flower. It then coils humbly and spread to both sides of the carving, until the coils end. In Malay traditional carving art, this is called a wan larat. This trait testifies the similarities this ornamentation has between Peranakan styles, with traditional Malay style. The envelope of the masjid is actually part of the main structure for the masjid. The wall is a construction of load-bearing walls, while the columns that attach to the wall are not actual columns, but just decorations in order to furnish with aesthetic quality. The systems of the walls consist of red bricks, and are arranged using the Flemish bond, to make the wall structure become stronger. Masjid Hiliran is supported with 14 round columns, arrayed in a grid system in the middle area of the masjid. These columns support the first floor, and the roof by sustaining the loads equally. Originally, the columns were made of timber, but later were enclosed with brick to reinforce it, by arranging around the core circular form, and then plastered. In 1926, a heavy flood stroked Hiliran and affected the masjid. The marks from the flood are still found on the columns in the prayer hall until today. In the ablution area, there are 3 round columns that support the first floor, which are placed exactly in the middle of the ablution pool. Mosaic finishes are applied at the bottom part of the column, to avoid water from seeping through, while maintaining its aesthetic value. Then, in the Balai Lintang, taller and narrow columns of rectangular shape are connected to the roof beam, which made from timber. Masjid Hiliran's roof is known to be a bumbong lima spurlunda, a traditional Malay architecture. At the top of the roof is called as Tunjuk Langit, which means to remind congregations about death, since its form is identical to the shape of a tombstone. The roof uses a timber construction method, which utilized the traditional Malay joint system. As the main structural element, the roof beam is supported by columns by resting on it. The roof beam also holds the ceiling joists, where these joists are attached with ceiling panels. It doesn't only support the joists, It also sustains the double collar ties. Then, the collar ties hold the rafters, while these rafters have an arrangement of purlins on top of it, and finally, a layer of double battens are laid on top of the purlins. As the finishes, concrete and Singora tiles that were imported from Thailand protect the entire system from the local climate, while enhancing the aesthetic value of Masjid Hiliran. In the prayer hall, lies an 83 years old mimbar with unique and beautiful carvings, dated back in 1934. The mimbar was made of Chenyol timber. The highest part of the mimbar is Buwa Gutong. It leads to the sky as the symbol of relationship with God, as the only creator of this universe. Another significant ornament is Punggong Kitik. The form of the motifs also seems similar to a duck without head, and that is why it is called Punggong Itik. A portal is located in front of the mimbar which works as its opening. The whole form is symmetrical, and a flower leads to the sky at the center of the portal. It symbolizes sacred relationship between human and the Creator. The other prominent features of the mimbar are the carving of our one larad with flower motif. In the end, all these elements characterize the mimbar as an unique and beautiful features to Masjid Hiliran.
Ada orang boleh sebenarkan masjid ni, boleh saya pun tu aku berarti cari tukang. Jadi boleh nak buat tu dari tukang tu mari daripada sini, kemudian ada di sini dah sini tu. Kira-kira boleh abang orang tu buat tahun 25 macam tu. Tahun 26 datang banjir besar.
Minaret of Masjid Hiliran was added in the 1980s, and has a distinctive architectural feature of Chinese influence due to its pagoda shape. It is not an original structure of Masjid Hiliran, but works as an important element which is providing a visual focal point, and is used for the call to prayer. "17 columns on the ground floor sustain the upper timber floor system. Load-bearing wall as the envelope definer bears the wall above on the first floor. On the second floor, 14 brick columns, 3 timber columns, and the load-bearing wall hold both roofs intact. The 45 windows, with China Peranakan ornamentation style, beautifies the building envelope. Then, the layers roof structural elements defines the traditional Malay architecture and support the grey concrete and Singora tiles. All these elements define the majestic Masjid Hiliran architecture. It is a living heritage of its time and the future, owing to the local development of Islam, and the important people who bring the architecture of wonder to the local people and their home. As it still stands tall, living through time, it remains the best of its kind, through many generations to come.